Harlequin Intrigue and HarperAudio present Sheriff in the Saddle by Delores Fossen. Performed by Will Damron. Chapter 1. There's been a murder at the R Ranch. Sheriff Lee Mercer figured those were words no cop wanted to hear, but the dispatcher had been dead certain that was what the 911 caller had said. Since the R Ranch was in the jurisdiction of the Dark River Police Department, it was Lee's job to check it out. But she hoped like the devil that the caller had been wrong. There hadn't been a murder in her hometown of Dark River, Texas, in nearly a decade, and for reasons other than just the obvious, Lee wanted to keep it that way. "You think we should call in Jeb on this?" Deputy Rocky Calloway asked her. There was an edge to his voice, and leaning forward in the passenger seat of the cruiser, Rocky was drumming his fingers on his holstered sidearm. The deputy was showing some nerves, and that was the only reason Lee didn't scald him with a glance for asking that question. Still, the question set her teeth on edge. Jeb Mercer was her father, and before Lee had pinned on the sheriff's badge 18 months ago, Jeb had held that particular title for over 4 decades. He'd trained her, trained Rocky, too. And even though Lee had been duly elected after her dad's retirement, there were plenty, including Rocky, who'd always think of Jeb as the real sheriff. "No, we're not bringing in Jeb," she insisted. It was 2 a.m, and she didn't need him to hold her hand at a possible crime scene. She'd already gotten Rocky out of bed, since he was the deputy on call, and right now he was the only backup she intended to have. She stepped from the cruiser, the winter wind howling and swiping at her. Mercy, it was cold, a bone-deep kind of wet cold that poked like icy fingers through her buckskin coat and boots. Lee suspected in less than an hour the predicted sleet would start to come down in buckets and turn the roads into skating rinks. The wind gusts flicked away any of the usual scents that she might have picked up from the ranch, but then again, usual didn't apply to the R. It was sprawling with its hundreds of acres of prime pastures to accommodate the hundreds of Angus cattle and prize quarter horses raised there. The sleek white limestone house qualified as sprawling too. 3 floors that stretched out so far that it'd take a serious wide-angle lens to get it all in one photo. Lights speared out from at least a dozen of the windows. Lee flipped up the collar of her coat and glanced around. She hadn't been to the R in 14 years, not since she'd come to a party here when she'd been a senior in high school. She had plenty of memories of that particular event. Memories that she hoped wouldn't get in the way if something bad had truly gone on here tonight. Giving his own thick coat an adjustment, Rocky clamped his hand on his gun as they walked up the steps, and Lee rang the doorbell. She automatically checked around for any signs that something was off. Nothing. And only a couple of seconds ticked by before the large double doors opened. Lee instantly recognized the silver-haired woman who answered. Rosa Tyree. That was one of the advantages of living in a small town. Lee knew most folks, and in this case, she knew that Rosa was a housekeeper at the ranch. A long-time one, having worked there for longer than Lee had been alive. She was also well aware that Rosa didn't usually look this frazzled.
"He won't let me in the room,"
Rosa volunteered right away.
"He said I should wait down here for you."
Shivering from the cold, she frantically motioned for them to come in, and when they did, she shut the doors. "He?" Lee questioned, though she was pretty sure she already knew what Rosa's answer would be.
"Mr. Brody,"
Rosa provided, and then she added,
"Mr. Cullen Brody."
Yep, Lee had been right. Cullen Brody was the owner of the R, but his brother, Nick, and their father, Bowen, visited often. Lee had been hoping for Nick or Bowen, since Cullen was a huge part of those memories that she hoped wouldn't get in the way.
"You made the 911 call?"
Lee
Sample complete. Ready to continue?